Earth had always been a small, quiet planet in the vastness of the universe. For centuries, humans had wondered about the stars, imagining what might be out there. But no one, not even the most brilliant minds of Earth, had ever anticipated how their world would soon change. The year was 2173, and Earth's technological advancements had exploded in recent decades. Among these innovations was a project that remained hidden from the public: Vigilance, a warship unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Built in secret, the ship was Earth's answer to the rising threats of alien empires who looked at Earth as an insignificant, primitive planet. But Earth was no longer so defenseless. Dr. Leela Jennings, a young but brilliant engineer, stood in front of a massive control panel in the underground base where Vigilance had been constructed. Her heart raced as she gazed at the warship outside the reinforced glass. The ship was huge, with sharp, angular edges and a sleek, black surface that seemed to absorb the light around it. The engineers and scientists, who had worked tirelessly for years on the project, were all gathered, but Leela knew the weight of the moment was hers alone. For years, the world's most powerful nations had been building Vigilance in secret, a response to the increasing aggression from alien factions. Earth had made contact with alien species long ago, but most had underestimated humanity, seeing them as weak and unimportant. The galaxy had ignored Earth's potential, but they wouldn't be able to ignore it for much longer. As the countdown began, Lila's mind raced. The ship was not only a weapon but a statement. This was Earth's way of saying, "We are no longer weak. We are no longer afraid." Yet, as the engines powered up, she couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. What would happen when Earth's hidden strength was finally revealed? Would the galaxy accept them, or would they become the enemy to all? The project's success was critical, but no one could predict what might come next. Vigilance was humanity's first true military weapon, a ship designed to stand toe-to-toe with any galactic power. The ship's core was fueled by an energy source so powerful that it could destroy entire fleets in a single blast. Its stealth technology made it invisible to alien radar, and its weaponry could tear apart the most advanced shields in seconds. The moment arrived. Leela pressed the button, and the engines roared to life, launching the ship into space. The crew on board was ready, but their mission was simple: test the ship's capabilities. But as Vigilance ascended into the stars, the galaxy's first impression of Earth's military might was about to unfold, and it was one no one was prepared for. The roar of the engines echoed through the dark expanse of space as Vigilance slowly moved forward. It was a sight no one had ever seen before: an immense warship, sleek and black, gliding effortlessly through the stars. The ship was Earth's greatest achievement, and today it was ready for its first test flight. Dr. Leela Jennings stood in the control room, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. Her eyes were locked on the massive screen in front of her, which displayed live footage of the ship as it sailed smoothly through the atmosphere. It was almost too perfect. After years of secrecy, thousands of hours of labor, and countless calculations, Vigilance was finally in motion. Everything looked stable. Leela muttered to herself, trying to keep her mind focused. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest. The weight of the world rested on this moment. If this test flight went well, Vigilance would be ready for its true purpose: to defend Earth from any alien threat. On board the ship, Commander Blake Collins, an experienced pilot, was at the helm. He had flown many spacecraft in his time, but Vigilance felt different. It was like nothing he had ever piloted before: smooth, precise, and overwhelmingly powerful. The ship's advanced systems made the controls feel effortless, almost as if the ship itself was guiding him. "We're ready to begin the test phase," Collins said into the comm system, initiating the first series of maneuvers. The crew braced themselves as the ship began to shift and turn. The first tests were simple: speed, agility, and maneuverability. But as Vigilance performed each turn with ease, it was clear that the warship was not just powerful, it was nearly flawless. Layla watched the data flooding in on the screens, tracking every detail. The ship's engines hummed steadily. The weapons systems powered down for now, but they were all ready. Even the stealth technology was working as intended, making vigilance invisible to the most advanced detection systems. But there was more to this test than just a few basic maneuvers. Earth's enemies, the Scifi Empire, had been watching closely for any sign of weakness. Leela had received reports that the Scifi had deployed a reconnaissance fleet, scanning Earth's space. It wouldn't be long before they discovered Vigilance's true purpose. The ship flew deeper into space, approaching a nearby asteroid field. It was the perfect location for a more dangerous test. The ship's weapons, the Scifi fleet, if they were nearby, would soon detect Vigilance's presence, and Leela knew that the peaceful display of power would soon be over. "Prepare for weapons systems activation," Leela ordered, her voice steady, but filled with anticipation. As Collins moved the ship into position, the weapons on Vigilance powered up. The energy from the ship's core surged, and a soft hum filled the air. On Lila's command, the warship fired its first test blast, a single shot that ripped through an asteroid like it was made of paper. The force of the blast created a shockwave that could be felt even on Earth's distant shores. The crew watched in stunned silence. What had once been a dream, an idea, was now a terrifying reality. Vigilance was more powerful than they had ever imagined. This part of the story builds on the suspense and excitement, showcasing the first test of vigilance and hinting at the dangers that lie ahead. Let me know how you like it. The shockwave from Vigilance's weapon blast rippled through space, and across the galaxy, it did not go unnoticed. Deep within the cold void, far beyond Earth's reach, the Scifi Empire received the signal, a blast of power unlike anything they had ever encountered before. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had something to say. Back on Earth, Dr. Leela Jennings sat at the control room console, watching the monitors closely. The weapon test had been successful, but something still didn't sit right with her. The Scifi were watching. They had to be. The moment Vigilance fired its first shot, it had sent a message to every corner of the galaxy. Earth was no longer a small, helpless planet. It wasn't long before that message reached the Scifi Empire, the most powerful and feared force in the galaxy. Known for their aggressive conquests, the Scifi viewed Earth as an insignificant world, one they could easily overpower. But that was before Vigilance came into the picture. Scifi ships, sleek and fast, appeared in Earth's space near the asteroid field where Vigilance had conducted its test. The alien fleet moved swiftly, with no hesitation. They had been monitoring Earth's movements for weeks, waiting for any sign of weakness or vulnerability. But now, they had seen the strength of the human warship. Inside the Scifi flagship, Commander Vraxer stood before his crew, his purple eyes glowing with intensity. His sharp, angular features betrayed little emotion, but his mind raced. Vigilance, the human warship, was a game-changer. It was unlike any weapon that Scifi had ever encountered, and Vraxer knew that Earth had just crossed a line. "We must investigate," Vraxer ordered, his voice steady, but filled with urgency. "Contact the humans. We will find out what they are hiding." Vraxer's orders were swift. The Scifi fleet, now fully alert, began sending signals to Vigilance, demanding that Earth explain the sudden display of power. Their communication channels crackled with static, but the message was clear. "Human vessel, you are in violation of galactic peace. State your intentions." Dr. Leela Jennings, seated in the control room, heard the communication from the Scifi. Her fingers hovered over the console, unsure of how to respond. This was the moment she had feared, but also the moment she had prepared for. The peaceful test of Vigilance was over. Now, humanity had to show the galaxy who they truly were. "Commander Collins," Leela said calmly, turning to the pilot, "put us on a direct course for the Scifi fleet. Let them see what we're capable of." The command was given, and Vigilance turned toward the approaching Scifi ships, its sleek frame cutting through space like a predator preparing to strike. The crew knew that this was not just a test of the ship's power. It was a test of Earth's place in the galaxy. The tension in the control room was palpable as the Scifi fleet loomed closer. They were waiting for a response, but Vigilance remained silent, like a shadow in the darkness. Lila's eyes narrowed. This was only the beginning. This part deepens the tension between Earth and the Scifi Empire, setting the stage for the upcoming conflict. It also begins to highlight the bigger political and military dynamics in the story. Let me know. The Scifi fleet stopped at a safe distance from Vigilance, their sleek ships hovering in space like a watchful predator circling its prey. They had sent their warning, but the human warship did not respond. Instead, it remained in perfect silence, a dark, silent shadow in the vastness of space. Commander Vraxer stood at the front of the Scifi flagship, his eyes focused on the giant human ship. He had expected a much different reaction from Earth. A small planet with little defense, humans were known for their peaceful ways. So why had they built such a terrifying weapon? Vraxer was not a fool. He knew that the galaxy had underestimated Earth for far too long. But now, this ship, this Vigilance, was something that changed everything. The weapon's power, the stealth technology, the sheer size of the ship, it was all too much for the Scifi to ignore. "Open a communication channel," Vraxer ordered, his voice firm. He was not one to show weakness. He needed answers. On the bridge of Vigilance, Dr. Leila Jennings listened to the request for communication. The Scifi were demanding an explanation, but she knew the truth. There was no peaceful way out of this situation now. Earth had just declared its strength. Vigilance was the symbol of that strength, and she had to decide how to move forward. "Commander Collins," Leila said quietly, turning to the ship's pilot. "Let's respond. It's time to show them who we are." The comm system beeped, and a few seconds later, Leila's calm voice filled the room. "This is Dr. Leila Jennings, representative of Earth. You've demanded an explanation. So here it is." The screen blinked, and Vraxer's face appeared in front of her, cold and emotionless. The commander's alien eyes scanned her face carefully, as if trying to measure her thoughts. "You have displayed a power far beyond your planet's reputation," Vraxer said, his voice harsh. "Explain this warship, human. Why do you threaten us?" Leila did not hesitate. Her fingers gently rested on the console as she met his gaze. "This warship, Vigilance, is not a threat. It is a promise," Leila replied, her voice steady. "A promise that Earth is no longer a weak, helpless world. A promise that we will defend ourselves and our allies from any force that dares to attack us. You can call it a weapon, but I call it the future of humanity." The Scifi commander's eyes narrowed as he considered her words. His pride was on the line, and humans had just shocked him in ways he hadn't expected. He had never met a species so bold, so unafraid. Most other species would have cowered at his fleet's presence, but not Earth. "The future of humanity," Vraxer scoffed. "Your kind does not even understand the true meaning of power, but we will see what this ship can do." He cut the communication abruptly, and the screen went black. The Scifi fleet began to move forward, closing the gap between them and Vigilance. The time for talk was over. Earth had just made its first move, and the galaxy would soon learn the consequences. On Vigilance, Leila stood still for a moment, letting the silence settle around her. She knew what was coming next. This wasn't just about Earth anymore. The galaxy had been warned, and now the war had begun. This part deepens the interaction between Earth and the Scifi, showing the tensions and the first signs of conflict. It sets up the future battles and political tensions while keeping the suspense high. Let me know how you feel about it. The calm before the storm did not last long. As the Scifi fleet closed in on Vigilance, the tension aboard the human warship was palpable. Dr. Leila Jennings paced in the control room, her fingers occasionally brushing over the edge of her console. She had just made a bold statement, but now, The Scillarii were not backing down. The ship's systems hummed quietly, awaiting her command, but something in the air had shifted. On the Scillarii flagship, Commander Vraxer stood with his arms crossed, watching the human ship with narrowed eyes. He had listened to Dr. Leela's words, but now it was time to put those words to the test. The galaxy had never known Earth to be anything but weak. But now, this warship, Vigilance, was proving otherwise. "Prepare the fleet," Vraxer said coldly. "It's time to remind these humans where they belong." With that order, the Scillarii fleet suddenly opened fire. The first blast came in a quick burst, aimed directly at Vigilance. The shockwave of the blast rattled the control room. The human crew braced themselves, knowing that this was no longer a simple demonstration. But what the Scillarii did not expect was the swift and nearly silent reaction of Vigilance. The ship's advanced stealth system cloaked it in the blink of an eye, making it nearly impossible to target. The first blast missed by miles, dissipating harmlessly in the empty void of space. "Shields up," Leela shouted, her calm demeanor hiding the rising tension in her voice. She knew that the first shot was only the beginning. The Scillarii fleet fired again, this time with more powerful blasts aimed directly at Vigilance's engines. But once again, the warship was prepared. The ship's energy shields flared to life, absorbing the attack and leaving only a faint ripple across the surface. In the command center, Leela's eyes flicked from one screen to another as the data streamed in. The ship's defenses were working perfectly, but she couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. This wasn't just a test anymore. The Scillarii had made their move. They were attacking Earth. "Commander Collins," Leela said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Take us into the heart of their fleet. Show them what Vigilance can do." With a sharp nod, Commander Collins manipulated the controls, and Vigilance moved forward, faster than the Scillarii could predict. The warship's powerful engines roared to life, pushing it past the Scillarii ships. In the blink of an eye, it was among them. "Activate weapons," Leela ordered, her eyes locked on the Scillarii ships. With one command, Vigilance unleashed its first strike. The energy beam sliced through the Scillarii flagship like a hot knife through butter. The alien ship exploded into a fireball, debris scattering in all directions. The Scillarii fleet, now in complete disarray, tried to regroup. But Vigilance wasn't done yet. The ship turned sharply, its advanced maneuverability allowing it to fire again. Another Scillarii ship was disabled, its weapons and engines destroyed in a single shot. For the first time, the Scillarii understood the full force of Earth's power. They were not prepared for this. No one had been ready for Vigilance. The battle was just beginning, but the message was clear. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. Vigilance had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. This part ramps up the action and shows Vigilance in action, highlighting the ship's power and the unexpected strength of Earth. It also sets up the escalating conflict with the Scillarii Empire. Let me know if it fits your vision. The destruction of the Scillarii flagship was the first crack in the galaxy's calm. A single strike from Vigilance had sent a shockwave across space. The power of Earth's warship spread like wildfire, reaching the ears of alien empires far and wide. The galaxy, once unaware of Earth's true strength, now stood on the edge of uncertainty. On the bridge of Vigilance, Dr. Leela Jennings and her team observed the aftermath of their unexpected victory. The Scillarii fleet, once so confident, was now in disarray. Several of their ships were disabled, floating helplessly in space. But this battle was far from over. The Scillarii were known for their pride, and they would not easily accept defeat. Leela stood in silence, her eyes scanning the data. Despite their success, she knew the real consequences of their actions had only just begun. The Scillarii would regroup. And worse, their defeat would not go unnoticed. Other empires in the galaxy would soon be watching. Commander Blake Collins, his face tense from the chaos of battle, turned to Leela. "The Scillarii fleet is retreating, but we can't expect them to stay quiet." Others will come. Leela nodded slowly. I know. We've sent a message to the galaxy, and it will spread quickly. But the question is, how will they react? The truth was, Earth had just shown its strength, and now the galaxy would have to reconsider its view of humanity. For centuries, Earth had been seen as weak, a young and vulnerable planet. But vigilance had just proved that humans were capable of much more. The first to react were Earth's allies, the few alien species who had been working alongside humanity. They had watched the test of vigilance and its battle with the auxiliary. Now, they were seeing the full power of Earth's might. The Zoraxians, a peaceful race who had long been friendly with Earth, sent a diplomatic message. We have seen the strength of your warship, Earth. We offer our support. Let us stand together. Leela read the message with a sense of relief. Earth wasn't alone. But even with the Zoraxians' support, the situation was far from secure. More alien factions would soon test Earth's resolve. The news of the battle with the auxiliary spread quickly through the galaxy. Empires like the Threx and the Raytarn began to take notice. These were powerful races, and they had little respect for Earth's quiet history. But now, they had no choice but to pay attention. Vigilance had changed everything. Prepare for more, Leela whispered under her breath. She knew the real challenge was just beginning. Earth had become a target, and even though vigilance was powerful, it couldn't defend Earth against an entire galaxy's worth of enemies. Back on Earth, the governments of the world were in chaos. The unexpected success of vigilance had united the world's nations in support of the ship, but it also sparked fierce debates. Some believed that humanity should now dominate the galaxy. Others argued for diplomacy, fearing what might happen if they pushed too hard. In the meantime, the Tsilari were licking their wounds, but they would not forget the power they had seen. The next time they faced vigilance, it would not be the same. The battle for Earth's future had only just begun. The galaxy had been shaken. The peaceful Earth that had once been dismissed was now a force to be reckoned with, and every empire in the galaxy would have to decide how they would deal with the humans who had just changed the rules of the game. This part emphasizes the ripple effect of Earth's actions, showing how the galaxy is reacting to vigilance and Earth's newfound strength. It sets up the global and intergalactic consequences, while hinting at more challenges ahead. Let me know if it fits your vision. Back on Earth, the aftermath of Vigilance's shocking display of power had left the world divided. The battles in space were over, but the real war was now unfolding on Earth itself, within its governments, its people, and even within the hearts of those who had been behind the creation of Vigilance. Dr. Leela Jennings watched the news broadcasts from the control room, her eyes tired but focused. Across the globe, leaders were arguing over what should come next. Some saw Vigilance's victory as a sign that humanity was ready to take its place as the dominant force in the galaxy. Others feared the consequences of this newfound power. Earth had just made enemies of the Auxiliary Empire and many other alien factions. Could humanity handle the weight of its actions? In the United Nations, President Donovan was giving a speech to address the situation. His voice was confident, but Leela could see the stress in his eyes when he spoke. He was torn between his duty to protect Earth and the fear of what might happen if Earth pressed too far. "We cannot back down now," President Donovan said. "We've shown the galaxy what Earth is capable of. Vigilance is not just a weapon. It is a symbol of our strength, of our determination. We will not allow anyone to push us around. We will defend our planet and our people." But not everyone agreed. Back in the control room of Vigilance, Commander Blake Collins was speaking with a group of high-ranking officials. Some wanted to use Vigilance as a deterrent, a symbol of peace through strength. Others wanted to escalate the conflict, striking at the heart of alien empires that had threatened Earth's future. "We can't afford to hesitate," one officer argued. "The Tsilari won't forget their defeat. We need to act now, before they regroup and try to retaliate." Commander Collins leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. He had seen the power of Vigilance firsthand. But he knew that this ship was not just a tool for destruction. It was meant to protect Earth and ensure that humanity's future would be one of peace, not war. "I don't want to fight unless we have to," Collins said, his voice firm. "We need to find a way to show the galaxy that we're not looking for trouble. But if they push us, we'll be ready." Meanwhile, Layla was still struggling with her own doubts. She had helped build Vigilance, a ship that could change the fate of entire civilizations. She had dreamed of a peaceful future for Earth, but now she wasn't sure what kind of future that would be. Would Vigilance be humanity's shield, or would it become the sword that plunged Earth into chaos? The global debate raged on, with public opinion split. Some citizens of Earth cheered for the victory over the Xilari, eager for their world to rise to the top of the galactic food chain. But others were more cautious, fearing that Vigilance might lead humanity down a dangerous path. The divisions were clear. Some saw Earth's newfound power as an opportunity to forge alliances, while others saw it as a chance to dominate and control. Lila watched, knowing that whatever path Earth chose, it would shape the future of the planet and the galaxy forever. This part shows the growing tension within Earth's leadership and the divided opinions among its people. It sets up the internal struggles that will play a key role in the story's development. Let me know if this direction works for you. The tension on Earth was mounting. The debate about Vigilance and its role in the galaxy had not subsided, and it seemed like every decision was pushing humanity toward a new path. But in the cold expanse of space, Earth's victory had caught the attention of an even more dangerous force: the Threx Empire. The Threx were a ruthless and ancient empire, known throughout the galaxy for their military might and their obsession with power. They had seen Earth's recent rise, and they were not impressed by the humans' display of strength. To them, Earth was simply another planet to conquer, another obstacle to their growing dominance. Commander Vraxer of the Xilari Empire had warned them, but the Threx Empire refused to listen. They had seen the destruction of their Xilari allies and felt that the only way to ensure the Threx Empire's position in the galaxy was to deal with Earth swiftly, before it could grow any stronger. Back on Earth, Dr. Leela Jennings was once again at the control room of Vigilance. After the defeat of the Xilari fleet, she had hoped for a brief moment of peace, but she could feel the unease building again. The galaxy was not as forgiving as she had hoped. The Threx Empire had already sent their ships into Earth's space, and they weren't here for diplomacy. Layla watched the screens closely. The Threx fleet was enormous. Massive, dark ships surrounded by a swarm of smaller attack crafts. It was clear that they weren't here to talk. They had come to crush humanity's rise before it could gain any real traction. "Commander Collins," Leela said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "We've got incoming Threx ships. It looks like they've made their move." Commander Collins didn't hesitate. He had seen how dangerous the Threx could be, and he knew that Vigilance was humanity's only chance to survive this new threat. "Set a course to intercept them," Collins ordered. "We're not backing down." As Vigilance powered up its engines, the crew prepared for another battle. They had already seen what the ship was capable of against the Xilari, but the Threx were different. They were more ruthless, more organized, and this time, they were not going to be caught off guard. The first shots came quickly. Threx attack ships fired missiles, their bright trails cutting through the darkness of space. Vigilance's shields flared to life, absorbing the attack with ease. The warship's stealth systems activated, making it nearly invisible to the Threx forces. But the Threx were persistent. They had prepared for Vigilance. Their ships launched a barrage of laser fire, trying to disable the human warship before it could retaliate. The battle raged on, the Threx fleet closing in on Vigilance with incredible speed. Leela clenched her fists as she watched the battle unfold. This was the moment that would define Earth's place in the galaxy. If Vigilance could survive this fight, it would prove to every alien empire that humanity was not to be underestimated. But if they failed, Earth's dream of peace and power would be shattered. "Activate primary weapon systems," Leela commanded. The time for defense was over. It was time to strike back. With one powerful blast, Vigilance fired its energy beam straight into the heart of the Threx flagship. The ship exploded in a blinding flash, and the Threx fleet staggered back in shock. The message was clear. Earth was not afraid. But the battle was far from over. The Threx fleet regrouped, and the fight for Earth's survival had just begun. This part brings the conflict to the next level, with the Threx Empire launching an attack, testing Earth's resolve once more. It sets up another high-stakes battle and shows how humanity must continue to defend its place in the galaxy. Let me know if this works for you. The Threx Empire had underestimated Earth. Their fleet, massive and powerful, now found itself in disarray after the devastating strike from Vigilance. But even in the wake of their losses, the Threx were relentless. They regrouped quickly, their remaining ships preparing for another assault. On Vigilance, the crew braced themselves. They knew that Earth's survival depended on this battle. If they couldn't defeat the Threx now, everything they had fought for would be lost. The stakes were higher than ever before. Commander Blake Collins stood at the helm, his hands steady on the controls. "Prepare for a counterattack," he said, his voice calm but filled with determination. "We're not giving them another chance." Dr. Leela Jennings stood nearby, watching the screens. The Threx had already shown their ruthlessness, and their regrouping showed that they weren't going to back down. Earth's warship, Vigilance, was more powerful than anything the Threx had, but Leela knew that they would not hesitate to destroy Earth if they could. This was their last chance. "Target their flagship," Leela ordered. "We can end this if we hit them hard enough." The crew of Vigilance went to work, their hands moving swiftly over the controls. The warship's weapon systems powered up, and the hum of energy filled the control room. It was time for another strike. The Threx fleet fired first, their missiles and lasers tearing through space toward Vigilance. The ship's shields flared brightly, absorbing the blasts. But the crew knew they couldn't hold out forever. They had to end this now. "Now," Leela shouted. Vigilance fired its energy beam, a powerful wave of light that ripped through the darkness of space. The beam cut through the Threx flagship's defenses like they were made of paper. The explosion that followed was deafening. The flagship shattered into pieces, and debris scattered across the battlefield. The remaining Threx ships paused for a moment, stunned by the destruction of their command vessel. But they quickly regained their composure and fired once more, desperate to stop Earth's advance. "Keep moving," Collins shouted. "We can't stop now." With the Threx flagship destroyed, Vigilance weaved through the enemy ships, dodging incoming fire with incredible agility. The crew fired back, picking off smaller Threx vessels one by one. The battle was chaos. Laser blasts, explosions, and the hum of engines filled the air as Vigilance fought to keep the Threx at bay. Leela watched the battle unfold, knowing that this moment would define humanity's future. The Threx would not let this go easily, but Earth had proven its strength. No one had expected the humans to stand their ground, much less defeat such a powerful enemy. But with Vigilance, Earth was no longer a weak planet. It was a force to be reckoned with. After what felt like hours, the final Threx ship was disabled. The once powerful fleet was no more. The battlefield fell silent, and the crew of Vigilance took a collective breath. "We did it," Commander Collins said, his voice a mix of relief and disbelief. Vigilance had survived. Earth had survived. But Leela knew this victory was only temporary. The galaxy had seen Earth's power, and now everything would change. But for now, they had proven that humanity would not be easily defeated. Earth had found its place in the galaxy. This part wraps up the battle between Earth and the Threx Empire, showcasing Vigilance's incredible power and humanity's survival. It also sets up a future where Earth's role in the galaxy will be dramatically altered. Let me know how this fits your expectations. The battle was over. The Threx Empire had been defeated, their fleet shattered and scattered across the vastness of space. Vigilance had once again proven its power, But for the crew aboard the ship, the victory felt hollow. The immediate danger had passed, but Leela knew the true consequences of what they had just achieved. Leela stood quietly in the control room, watching the wreckage of the Threx ships drift through space. The battle had been long and brutal, but Earth had won. For now. "Commander Collins," Leela said, her voice steady but tired, "send a message to Earth. Let them know we've won." Collins nodded and turned to his console, sending out the broadcast to Earth. The message was simple. Earth had survived. Vigilance had protected them. And the Threx Empire had been defeated. Back on Earth, the world was already buzzing with excitement. News outlets were covering the battle in real time, broadcasting images of the wreckage, the fallen Threx ships, and the incredible victory Earth had achieved. People were cheering in the streets, celebrating the defeat of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. But there were still whispers of fear. Dr. Leela Jennings stood by the window of the control room, staring out into the dark expanse of space. She had helped build Vigilance, the ship that had changed the course of Earth's future, but now she wondered if it had all been worth it. The galaxy had seen Earth's power, but what would that mean for the future? The leaders of Earth were already discussing what came next. The United Nations had called for an emergency meeting. President Donovan was calling for unity. Vigilance had proven that Earth was not a weak planet anymore. But how would the galaxy respond to Earth's rise? Would they see Earth as a powerful ally or as a dangerous threat? Leela didn't know what the future held, but she knew that Earth had been changed forever. No longer would humanity be ignored. No longer would they be pushed around. Vigilance had given them a place at the table, a place of power. Commander Collins joined her at the window, his face worn from the battle, but his expression was resolute. "We've won, Leela. Earth's future is in our hands now." Leela nodded. "I just hope we know how to handle it." The truth was, no one knew what came next. Earth had shown its strength, but the galaxy was vast, filled with enemies and allies alike. The Xilari, the Threx, and countless other alien species were now aware of humanity's capabilities. And while the victory over the Threx Empire would give Earth time to rebuild, there would be more battles ahead. But for now, the people of Earth could rest. Vigilance had secured their survival, and humanity had shown the galaxy that they would not be easily defeated. The warships that once saw Earth as a weak planet now saw a world that had the power to stand on its own. The era of humanity's struggle was over. A new era had begun, a time when Earth would no longer be afraid to fight for its place in the galaxy. And as Vigilance drifted quietly through space, the future was uncertain, but humanity was ready to face it. This final part wraps up the story, showing Earth's victory and the shift in its place in the galaxy. It leaves room for future challenges, but also marks the beginning of a new era for humanity. Let me know if it matches your expectations.